Crown Princess Mary will become the first Australian to take the throne as Queen after her mother-in-law revealed she would abdicate in a shock New Year's Eve announcement. Queen Margrethe of Denmark surprised the Danish population and the world when she revealed, during her annual New Year's Eve speech, she would abdicate. On January 14, the 83-year-old Queen ascended the throne in 1972.
6 decades after President John F. Kennedy was fatally shot in Dallas on November 22, 1963, bidders spent tens of thousands of dollars trying to obtain a piece of Texas and U.S. history at an auction of more than 70 artifacts. The highest-selling item was a pair of blue leather swatches taken from the seat of the limousine that was transporting Kennedy at the time of his assassination. The set was sold for $46,865.
From family portraits to memorable trips, the British royal family has made it a tradition to send out a Christmas card every year. This year, the Prince and Princess of Wales released their 2023 Christmas card, a black and white family portrait showcasing their grown-up children. Meanwhile, King Charles III and Queen Camilla opted for a photograph taken during their coronation in May as their Christmas card this year. As for Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, they decided to send out a virtual card that highlights the charitable work they've done through their Archewell Foundation.
In 1921, 2 Italian immigrants were tried and convicted of robbery and murder. Ferdinando Nicola Sacco and Bartolomeo Vanzetti were put to death in Massachusetts by electric chair at the ages of 36 and 39. They were sentenced to death on 2 counts of murder. For their last meals, Sacco and Vanzetti requested soup, tea, meat, and toast. In 1977, the governor of Massachusetts issued a statement saying that they had been unfairly tried and convicted. The case has been open ever since.
Royal fans have praised Princess Diana for her perfect curtsy. Princess Diana's curtsy to Queen Elizabeth II on her royal wedding day in 1981 has had millions of views. After the princess' untimely death at the age of 36 in a high-speed Paris car crash, the monarch was seen publicly bowing her head out of respect when Diana's coffin passed outside. Sarah Ferguson, the Duchess of York, has joined the royal family for the Sandringham Christmas service for the first time in more than 30 years. She made a surprise appearance alongside King Charles and Queen Camilla. She was seen accepting flowers and joking with members of the public as she wished them a Merry Christmas. One of Princess Diana's evening dresses broke auction records on Sunday, achieving $1.1 million, 11 times its estimate. Julianne's auction sold the piece, which the late Princess of Wales wore while touring Italy in 1985. To date, it's the most expensive of Princess Diana's dresses to sell at auction. It's the most wonderful time of the year, and we are eagerly waiting for all of the royal Christmas cards to be released. The British royals were one of the first to share their images. While some royal households opt for traditional festive settings, others have gone for a more modern approach. Take a look through this year's official Christmas portraits from royalty around the world and keep coming back to see more when they're released.
We care for the earth for the sake of our children's children. During my lifetime, I've been so pleased to see a growing awareness of how we must protect the earth and our natural world as the one home which we all share. I find great inspiration now from the way so many people recognize this. And at a time of increasingly tragic conflict around the world, I pray that we can also do all in our power to protect each other. The words of Jesus seem more than ever relevant. Do to others as you would have them do to you.
The French diver who died in the Titan submersible had spent 2 decades working with a controversial company with the sole right to retrieve and display items from the Titanic wreck site. Paul Henry Nargeolet, one of the most prolific Titanic divers in history, led 5 expeditions for the private salvage firm RMS Titanic Inc. to collect more than 5,000 artifacts from the ship. The artifacts included items as small as shaving kits and pipes and as large as chandeliers. His legacy and the company he spent many years working for highlight the debate surrounding grave tourism and salvaging shipwrecks.
One unusual tradition in the royal family has to do with presents. They are opened not on Christmas morning itself, but the day before, on Christmas Eve. Usually it is right after afternoon tea, an afternoon tea with miniature snacks, at which the whole family gathers. Unwrapping presents on Christmas Eve is a German tradition and perhaps a tribute to the German roots of the royal family. It is noteworthy that the preference is not for expensive gifts, but for funny and amusing ones. For example, according to some reports, the Queen once received a dishwashing apron as a gift from her family, and her husband Philip, Duke of Edinburgh, was given a cute table peppermill for Christmas. So gifts for this holiday are more an occasion to joke than to surprise with generosity.
Despite what the iconic 1997 Titanic film may have you believe, the owners never said that it could never sink. They claimed that the unsinkable myth was the result of people's interpretations of articles in the Irish News and the Shipbuilder magazine. They also claimed that the myth grew after the disaster.
This is your favorite president, Donald J. Trump, with some very exciting news. My last 2 Trump digital trading card collections sold out in just hours. And now I'm back with my latest series called the Mugshot Edition. I wonder where that came from, the Mugshot Edition. 47 all-new stunning cards, and here is the best part. I'm doing 2 important things for my Trump collectors. For the first time, we're creating a real physical Trump card. Purchase 47 digital cards, and we'll mail you a beautiful trading card. It is an authentic piece of the suit I wore when I took that now famous mugshot, and it was a great suit, believe me, a really good suit. It's all cut up and you're gonna get a piece of it. I'll be autographing some of them. A true collector's item. This is something to give to your family, to your kids and grandchildren.
While the jewels were discovered to be missing on 6 July, they were last seen on the 11 June, and in the meantime there was a series of security breaches. The door of the building and the door of the strong room were found open on separate occasions, and Vickers failed to take action. Vickers was accused of being careless in his guardianship of the crown jewels. Many people had access to keys to the tower. On one occasion, when Vickers was intoxicated at a party, Aberdeen's son Lord Haddo took one of the safe keys, stole the jewels, and returned them to Vickers by post as a prank. If you like history, please like and subscribe. The tradition of giving death row inmates a special last meal dates back several thousand years. Timothy McVeigh, the American terrorist behind the Oklahoma City bombing, was put to death in Indiana by lethal injection at the age of 33. He was sentenced to death for 168 counts of murder. For his last meal, McVeigh requested 2 pints of mint chocolate chip ice cream. Alan Lee Tiny Davis was put to death in Florida by electric chair at the age of 54. He was sentenced to death for robbery and 3 counts of murder. For his last meal, Davis requested lobster tail, fried potatoes, half a pound of fried shrimp, 6 ounces of fried clams, half a loaf of garlic bread, and 32 ounces of root beer. It's quite literally a jewel in the royal crown, but some claim it's stolen and should be returned. The word Koh-i-Noor blew up on Twitter soon after the passing of the late Queen Elizabeth II, reigniting a centuries-old campaign to correct the course of British colonialism. Koh-i-Noor is one of the largest and most expensive cut diamonds in the world and the centerpiece of the crown jewels of the United Kingdom. Weighing 105.6 carats, the diamond is said to be worth $591 million. But how it came to be in the possession of the royal family is a sore point for some. While its exact origins are unclear, the British are said to have acquired the stone in the late 1840s. The crown was last shown publicly in 2002, resting atop of the Queen Mother's coffin at her funeral. Weird crimes and punishments from the Aztec Empire that are too shocking to be true. Number 1. Murders. The Aztecs didn't have prisons. Murderers, however, would be burnt on a bonfire until they were nearly dead. Then they'd have their still beating heart cut out of their chest. Number 2. Drunkenness. Having one too many to drink would result in having all your hair cut off and your house demolished. However, elders over 70 were permitted to consume as much alcohol as they wished without consequence. 3. Prisoners of war. Captured warriors would be tied in a standing position between two posts, and a white spot would be painted onto the point where the heart was. A firing squad of archers would then shoot arrows into every part of the body except for the head and the heart, which they saved until last. If you enjoyed the video, subscribe for more shocking facts and discoveries about history.
The royal family's Christmas isn't complete without a church outing followed by meeting members of the public. Keeping a long-standing tradition, King Charles and Queen Camilla led the royals on Monday as they made their way to the holiday service at the Church of St. Mary Magdalene in Norfolk near the royal residence of Sandringham. They were joined by many members of the family, including Kate Middleton and Prince William with their 3 children, Prince George, Princess Charlotte and Prince Louis.
And at a time of increasingly tragic conflict around the world, I pray that we can also do all in our power to protect each other. The words of Jesus seem more than ever relevant. Do to others as you would have them do to you.
Painters of the Brooklyn Bridge in 1914. Albert Einstein in Long Island, New York, summer of 1939. African Americans protest against the Vietnam War during the Harlem Peace March in 1967. Audrey Hepburn in a grocery store with her pet deer in Beverly Hills, 1958. Painters of the Eiffel Tower, 1932. Girl with her doll sitting in the ruins of her bombed house, London, 1940. Women deliver ice cubes in 1918. Newspaper boy Ned Parfit sells the evening newspaper with the news that the Titanic has sunk the night before, April 16, 1912.
Its past inhabitants have left behind a tale of murder and misfortune, one that still haunts the castle today. One of the reasons why Chateau de Brissac is so famously haunted is due to a tragic event that took place there. Charlotte de Breze, the wife of Jacques de Breze and mistress of the castle, was mysteriously murdered inside one of its rooms. She was the illegitimate daughter of King Charles VII and his mistress, Agnes Sorel. Subscribe if you want. She is said to haunt the tower of the chapel of Chateau de Brissac, wearing her green dress, and it is said that Jacques de Breze had to move out from the castle as he was tormented by her ghost.
Nikola Tesla in his laboratory next to his magnifying transmitter in 1899. The last known photo of the Titanic above water in 1912. Ancient Roman paving with large phallic graffito carving displayed in a museum in Croatia. The very first metro ride, Edgware Road Station, London, 1862. Easter eggs for Hitler in 1945. 3 men run in the marathon at the first modern Olympic Games in 1896. Austrian boy in a moment of pure happiness after receiving new shoes during the Second World War. Elvis Presley in the Army in 1958. Woman with a gas-resistant stroller in England, 1938. If you like history, subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Thanks for watching.
The Danish Queen has embarked on her final ride. Queen Margrethe II will formally step down on the 14th January after announcing her surprise abdication on New Year's Eve.
I was quite shocked when I saw that the Queen was abdicating during the New Year's speech, mainly because I'm not that into the kingdom, so maybe somebody saw it coming. I did not. I was a bit sad because she's been there for 52 years and I thought it was going to be an ongoing process.
Queen Margrethe II has taken her final ride as the reigning monarch of Denmark in a gold carriage. The 83-year-old Queen rode through the streets of Copenhagen in a horse-drawn carriage for the last time before she steps down on January 14.
You're my strongest inspiration, and I love you. It's true, there's no mountain I could not climb as long as you are mine, and I thank you for being you. I'll be your best friend. I'll be your guide.
Between book releases and bombshell reports, the royal family certainly kept us busy in 2023. These are the best fashion moments, according to a royal style expert. Keep watching to see which royal looks were most memorable. Kate Middleton or Meghan Markle? Like and subscribe to keep updated on royal news from around the world. Princess Charlene of Monaco's ravishing ruby gown, or Queen Letizia's punchy peplum coronation dress. Happy New Year, and once again thank you for a great 2023.
Treasure hunters dedicated to uncovering remnants of World War II were left speechless after unearthing gold coins during a search last Sunday. The group had been exploring local woodland in search of traces from the Battle of Szczecin from the opening stages of World War II when they came across the hoard of gold coins. The 70 gold coins, estimated to be worth over $35,000, were found inside a corroded metal can buried 20 centimeters below the surface. It's absolutely outstanding. The preservation of the artifacts, what we found, is beyond our wildest dreams. 128-year-old mystery has now been solved. 7,500 archaeological treasures have been uncovered at the site where outlaw Ned Kelly fought his way into Australia's history. A month-long dig at the site ended today. Kelly was arrested and later hanged for his actions, while his partners in crime were killed during a shootout that ended the siege. The inn was burned to the ground during the siege and its remains lost to history until now. Cartridges from rifles fired by the police during the siege, cartridges from the Kelly gang's weapons, and melted lead bullets that were fired into the hotel as the battle raged were uncovered. Potentially the most exciting find was a tiny copper percussion cap from an early musket or revolver, which belonged to Ned Kelly. Researchers working in Australia have uncovered the fossilized tracks of birds that lived alongside dinosaurs, the oldest evidence of birds in the southern hemisphere. Anthony Martin of Emory University discovered the tracks in Victoria, once a southern polar region during the Cretaceous period, as part of the ancient landmass of Gondwana. They are believed to be up to 129 million years old. Subscribe to see more history, news, and paranormal. Thanks for watching.
Did you know? In ancient Rome, vessels for collecting urine were commonplace on streets. Passers-by would relieve themselves into them, and when the vats were full, their contents were taken to a phalanca, a laundry, diluted with water and poured over dirty clothes.
Researchers say the discovery of more stone artifacts at an underwater location in WA's north has confirmed its status as Australia's deepest known ancient Aboriginal site. In 2019, scientists from Flinders University discovered hundreds of ancient stone tools and grinding stones at the underwater site. A second underwater site was also discovered at the nearby Flying Foam Passage, but only one artifact was found at the 8,500-year-old fresh spring. But the recent discovery of 4 more ancient stone artifacts in the passage has given scientists the confidence to confirm its status as an ancient site. This is evidence that people were living on a land surface that's now underwater, so that's really critical. The mummified bodies of 8 individuals have been found by city workers who were digging a natural gas line in the Caraballo district on the outskirts of Lima, capital of Peru. Alongside the bodies are relics that were buried with the 8 individuals. Archaeologists say that the individuals include 6 adults and 2 children. The individuals are wrapped in cotton cloth. The trenches where the bodies were buried were only 30 centimeters below the surface. If you like history, then please subscribe and like this video. Thank you for watching.
In her end of the year speech, Queen Margrethe of Denmark took the world by storm when she announced that she would abdicate the throne in favor of her son Crown Prince Frederick. Quickly after the news reached the UK, some suggested that King Charles should eventually follow in her footsteps and let Prince William become monarch. Though this is unlikely, it doesn't mean that the 2 royal families don't share similarities. For one, both King Charles and Queen Margrethe are descendants of Queen Victoria.
Police have made a huge discovery from what could be a Neolithic shipwreck on the seabed in Naples, Italy. An 8 kilograms chunk of the purple volcanic glass. Italian archaeologists say it is an obsidian core, a block of solidified lava being moved to customers who would later chip off flakes of varying shapes and sizes to suit their own needs. These natural glass flakes have incredibly sharp edges and were highly prized for hunting spears, arrows, and knives. It was also valuable for Stone Age industries, including drilling, skinning, exfoliating, and shaping raw hides. Like and subscribe. A British coin dealer has been charged in New York over the fraudulent £3.2 million sale of the rarest and most valuable coin in the world. Richard Beale, the owner of London-based auction house, allegedly falsified the ownership records of 2 ancient coins he sold. The 8.06-gram sized gold coin, commemorating one of history's most notorious regicides and minted in 42 BC, went for $4.188 million to an unnamed bidder. It had once been in the collection of 18th-century Baron Chambrier of Switzerland and was so coveted that England's King George III was duped into purchasing a fake, which is now on display at the British Museum. The United States Army trialed battle sleds during World War II. General John O'Daniel ordered torpedoes to be cut in half for the purpose. 6 torpedo halves, each carrying 1 man, were then chained together into a unit, with 1 tank pulling 2 such chains. A total of 360 such sleds were manufactured and used during the Battle of Anzio. The sleds were disliked by the infantrymen, who felt like dead ducks in them. O'Daniel himself viewed the combat trials as inconclusive. Salvaged sleds were used later in the invasion of southern France. If you enjoy history, please like this video and subscribe. Thanks for watching. Cleopatra was an Egyptian queen, unknown to her empire. Cleopatra wasn't actually Egyptian. As far as historians can tell, Egypt's most famous female was actually Greek. She was a descendant of Alexander the Great's Macedonian general Ptolemy. If you like history, like and subscribe to my channel. Thank you for watching. For decades, a story had circulated amongst locals in the Ozarks that Jesse James and his gang had hidden treasure from a bank robbery they'd carried out in 1874. Chad Summers started digging with his bare hands. It was a half-crazy way to get Jesse James's buried treasure, he knew. Using this grindingly slow method, he reached 15 feet, then 20. After a month, he maxed out the 25-foot extension ladder. He found artifacts, including an old harmonica reed and a cigar butt made from a single leaf of tobacco, both suggestive that someone had been there, perhaps many decades ago. Over the course of numerous hunts, he dug up about $200,000 worth of gold and silver coins. You may know them as the bunch of heroes that broke box office records with their movies. But the Avengers was also a group of Jewish assassins who hunted Nazi war criminals after World War II. They poisoned 2,283 German prisoners of war. After decades, the remaining 4 Avengers broke their silence and spoke about their efforts to seek revenge for the murder of Jews during the Holocaust. They showed no remorse, referencing the biblical phrase, an eye for an eye.
Amazing World War I photos turned into glorious color. Subscribe if you want. If you enjoyed this video, then please click the like button to continue getting recommended to my content. Thank you for sticking around to the end.
In the heart of a small town in America, mystery lingers, a mystery that has intrigued investigators and left the community baffled for decades. Albert Campbell, a well-respected businessman, vanished without a trace in 1952. Countless locals have stated he looked troubled, like something was on his mind. It's as if he vanished into thin air. We searched high and low, but there was no sign of him anywhere. Over the years, theories have emerged, ranging from foul play to a voluntary disappearance. However, none could fully explain the enigma surrounding Albert Campbell's fate. But now, a breakthrough may be on the horizon. A collection of long-forgotten documents and photos shed new light on Albert's disappearance. Please like and subscribe. Turn the notification bell on to be notified on updates about this mystery. Thank you for watching. Florida treasure hunters found a trove of $4.5 million worth of Spanish gold coins 300 years to the day after a fleet of ships sunk in a hurricane while en route from Havana to Spain. Bartlett said the crew used the boat propeller to blow a hole in the sandy ocean floor to reach bedrock 8 feet down. The salvage operation lasted 5 days. Known on social media as Bondi Treasure Hunter, Lee Weber found a safe while fishing with a giant magnet overseas, and inside was something incredible. The solar panel salesman turned treasure hunter struck big when he found a safe belonging to a member of a royal family. After hurling up the safe and busting it open, he found a collection of foreign passports, documents, keys, empty jewelry boxes, and other personal items. He can't disclose which royal family the safe belonged to due to an ongoing police investigation, but he ended up tracking down the owner on social media to return the personal items. A treasure trove of ancient Egyptian and Grecian artifacts has been uncovered in sunken temples in a mysterious underwater city off the coast of Egypt. The new excavation revealed the gold and silver treasure of the sunken temple of Amun, which included artifacts that were likely used to bless the pharaohs as they ascended to the throne. It also found a Grecian temple to Aphrodite and ancient Greek weapons. Alexander the Great was accidentally buried alive. Scientists believe Alexander suffered from a neurological disorder called Guillain-Barré syndrome. They believe that when he died, he was actually just paralyzed and mentally aware. If you like history, subscribe to my channel and give this video a thumbs up. Thank you for watching. Welcome to our channel. We make videos about history, news from the past and present, discoveries, mysteries, and paranormal investigations. Come check out our page and give us a like and subscribe and help us reach our subscriber goal. We appreciate the support. Thanks for listening. Roughly 2,000 years ago, an ancient people known as Celts lived in the areas we now call Ireland, the UK, and northern France. The Celtic New Year began on November 1st, marking the end of harvest and the beginning of winter. In those days, the cold, dark winters were often associated with death, and the Celts believed that the night before the New Year was when the veil between the living and dead was thinnest. They lit large bonfires dressed in costume to greet or ward off the spirits and offered treats for the living and dead. In the second half of the 19th century, immigrants flooded into America, bringing with them their own customs and traditions. Millions of Irish who had grown up with old Celtic tradition came in during those years. One Irish tradition was root vegetable carving, when turnips or other roots would be carved with frightening faces to ward off evil spirits. The Salem witch trials occurred in colonial Massachusetts. Between early 1692 and mid-1693, more than 200 people were accused of practicing witchcraft, and 20 were executed. In 1711, colonial authorities pardoned some of the accused and compensated their families. But it was only in July 2022 that Elizabeth Johnson JRB, the last convicted Salem witch whose name had yet to be cleared, was officially exonerated. Let us know your thoughts. Comment below. Researchers have finally pinned down the cycle of the Mayan calendar, which until now has puzzled historians attempting to decipher it. The calendar system dates back to at least the 5th century BC, when it was widely adopted in parts of Mesoamerica under the Maya civilization, one of the most advanced civilizations of the ancient Western Hemisphere. Prior research has often theorized the calendar follows astronomical events, such as the movement of the planets in the sky, but a new study by anthropologists has determined the calendar covers a much longer time frame than was previously thought. The Mayan calendar system is made up of 3 interlocking calendars, a 260-day count known as the Tzolk'in, a 365-day solar calendar known as the Hab, a long count calendar that was used to track extended periods of time. Communities in the highlands of Guatemala and the southern states of Mexico. Among the world's most famous curses is the Curse of the Pharaoh, also known as King Tut's Curse. Ever since King Tutankhamun's tomb was discovered in Egypt's Valley of the Kings, stories circulated that those who dared violate the boy king's final resting place faced a terrible curse. It is widely claimed that many people associated with opening the tomb fell soon victim to the curse, dying under mysterious circumstances. The legend gained traction because a few of the people who were involved in finding the tomb did, in fact, die not long after it was opened. Like and subscribe if you want to hear why King Tut's tomb was cursed. 200 years ago, Jean-Francois Champollion raced into his brother's office and shouted, "I've got it." After years of research, he had pieced together one of the great historical puzzles of the time. He had deciphered the hieroglyphic script of ancient Egypt. The stone itself is named after its discovery location, Rosetta, situated east of Alexandria near the coast of the Mediterranean today. Rosetta Rashid didn't exist in pharaonic times, but sometime in Egypt's long and incredible history, the stone was moved here and used in the foundations of a building. Given the strength of this granodiorite slab, someone decided that it would be a very useful building block. Part 2 on my channel. Sorry, not enough time for a short to explain fully. Please like and subscribe. Additional presumed human remains and the final pieces of the doomed Titan submersible were plucked from the depths of the Atlantic Ocean last week, officials announced Tuesday. Officials will investigate the debris and other evidence recovered from the previous recovery mission ahead of an anticipated public hearing on the tragedy. Investigators believe the Titan imploded just 1 hour and 45 minutes into its dive to the wreck of the Titanic, as it reached a depth of around 12,000 feet under the sea. The 5 victims were OceanGate CEO Stockton Rush, French Titanic expert Paul Henry Nargeolet, British billionaire Hamish Harding, prominent Pakistani businessman Shahzada Dawood, and his 19-year-old son, Suleiman Dawood. They had paid up to $250,000 each per ticket to see the infamous wreck on the trip. In the summer of 1518, the city of Strasbourg, located in present-day France, witnessed a bizarre and deadly phenomenon, the dancing plague. The epidemic claimed the lives of dozens of individuals and left many more with long-term physical and mental health problems. To this day, the causes of the dancing plague remain a mystery, but historians and scientists have proposed several theories to explain this strange and deadly event. Subscribe to my channel to be notified of new discoveries, history news, and paranormal stories. Comment below. Several artifacts that have been kept at the Australian National University were stolen from Italy, including one that was likely smuggled out in bundles of pasta. The items date back as far as 530 BCE, and one artifact, a marble head, was even stolen from Vatican City. A specialist art squad in Italy's police force first raised the matter last year when it discovered a link between the Agnus Prize ancient Mediterranean amphora and the activities of a notorious dealer in the Italian illegal antiquities trade. The vase is 2,500 years old and was bought by the Anu in good faith in 1984 from Sotheby's in London. How an object that came from a museum that shut up in 1970 ended up in an Australian collection in 1968, we really don't know.
Archaeologists have uncovered a trove of ancient treasures on the site of the sunken port city, about 4 miles off Egypt's coast. Beneath the waters of the Bay of Abaugar in the Mediterranean Sea, the European Institute for Underwater Archaeology first discovered the lost city in 2000. French marine archaeologist and President Frank Gaudio led the joint mission, which investigated the South Canal of the ancient city. At some point in the 2nd century BCE, a natural disaster triggered the collapse of huge stone blocks from the Temple of Ammon, an important site for pharaonic rituals. The recent excavations have yielded a wealth of precious objects from the temple treasury, including silver ritual instruments, gold jewelry, and alabaster jars that would have held for perfumes. It is extremely moving to discover such delicate objects, which survived intact despite the violence and magnitude of the cataclysm.
Archaeologists in Spain recently discovered prehistoric human bones buried thousands of years ago in a Spanish cave that were possibly tied to cannibalistic practices. Among the findings were a human shin bone crafted into a tool and a human skull in the shape of a cup. The bones were examined under a microscope and appeared to have been purposely fractured. This could indicate that the marrow was drained and the flesh scraped and removed. The archaeologists, however, did not specify its exact purpose. The skull cup was made from a man aged 35 to 50. This type of skull cup is not the first of its kind. It's possible that prehistoric people used these objects to access the brain and eat it, but some of these cups have marks indicating that they were used for consuming liquids. This area in the southern part of Spain has produced other similar objects indicating that there was a strong connection between the living and the dead. Historical experiments had recorded hypnotized subjects doing almost anything. They could be made to steal, injure themselves, even attempt murder. Professor Orn wanted to test this. According to the article, he asked a group of hypnotized students, comprised of Sydney University psychology students, to perform a series of seemingly dangerous acts, including picking up a venomous...
At a ceremony on Tuesday, the Manchester Museum in England returned more than 170 artifacts originally belonging to the Anandalaikwa, an indigenous Australian group. The collection includes a number of everyday objects including dolls, baskets, a map made from turtle shells, and more that represent the Anandalaikwa people's rich history and culture. The return of these significant cultural heritage items is important for Australia's reconciliation process. It also helps renew cultural practices and safeguard such practices and items for future generations. This repatriation is part of a larger worldwide effort to return artifacts, sometimes looted or taken amidst violent circumstances, to their home countries. In this case, the objects weren't stolen, though Anandalaikwa representatives say that members from the 1950s may not have understood that these transactions were permanent. New York and federal authorities handed back 12 looted antiquities valued at $9 million to Lebanon on Thursday. including 3 objects removed from the Metropolitan Museum of Art last year during a flurry of multi-million-dollar seizures there. Taken from the museum were twin marble statuettes of the Greek mythological figures Castor and Pollux, valued at $800,000, and a bronze sculpture on loan to the Met from Shelby White, an art patron and museum trustee, which depicts a nude male worshipper and is valued by authorities at $1.2 million. Lebanon's Consul General, Abir Taha Adi, said in an interview that the theft of cultural objects like the mosaics had been a plague on her nation since its Civil War years, from 1975 to 1990. When you steal a nation's cultural heritage, you are stealing its memory, its history, and identity.
Trump's mugshot is now a means of entertainment and fundraising, but it will go down in history as an important cultural artifact. The Fulton County Sheriff's Office released Trump's mugshot on August the 24th of 2023, a little more than 1 week after a grand jury in Georgia indicted the former president and 18 associates for alleged attempts to overturn the results of the 2020 election. Trump's election campaign is now marketing the photo as a way to raise money, but Trump's mugshot's ultimate importance is yet to be realised. It will likely be at least a decade or 2 before Trump's mugshot's significance truly registers with people. For now, it is a form of entertainment, a piece of visual culture, soon to be a historical artifact. The Trump mugshot will be truly unique. It will represent the first time a former president had a public photographic record of criminal charges. Long after the various trials came to conclusion, the mugshot will serve as a reminder of a particularly troubling time in American history. Back in the 1970s, this creepy-looking house in Harrisville, Rhode Island was owned by Carolyn and Roger Perron, who lived there until 1981 with their 5 daughters. The family experienced all kinds of weird, unexplainable things while they lived in the house, and they eventually moved out in the early 1980s. While living in the house, Carolyn allegedly became possessed by a supernatural spirit, which prompted the involvement of Ed and Lorraine Warren, renowned paranormal investigators at the time. The filmmakers of the first Conjuring movie actually consulted with Lorraine Warren several times during production to ensure that they had all the details down to a T. It's about Otzi the Iceman you may not know. It actually took 10 years to figure out how he died. The 5,300-year-old remains of Otzi were discovered by 2 hikers in northernmost Italy in 1991 as he melted out of a glacier. First thought to have died from exposure, Otzi was found in 2001 to have an arrowhead in his shoulder that had cut his artery. His body was a complete wreck. He had severe arthritis, ulcers, whipworms, gallstones, blackened lungs, and rotten teeth. He had a frostbitten toe, broken ribs, and genetic markers indicating the world's earliest known case of Lyme disease. Otzi had a relatively high level of Neanderthal genes, some reports saying more than 5% compared to a 2% average for Europeans today. Otzi might have been a part-time coppersmith. His possessions included one of the oldest known copper axes, and his hair was heavily contaminated with copper and arsenic. Otzi had traces of cannabis on his tools, clothing, and in his digestive system. The traces probably stem from its use for pain relief. If you haven't already, then please subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching. A team of Australian divers have made a remarkable discovery off the coast of the Philippines. The divers ventured more than 100 metres underwater to assist in locating the long-lost US aircraft carrier that had been missing for nearly 80 years. The US aircraft had been on its way to liberate Manila from the Japanese during World War II, when it was struck in a kamikaze attack in the Sulu Sea. There were 95 lives lost in the attack, including 2 men on board the escort aircraft who were killed by flying debris. Because there was still a lot of mystery surrounding the wreckage, David needed a highly specialised team with deep water diving skills to solve it. 6 Australian divers went on the underwater expedition. However, the mission did come with risks. Venturing inside the wreck increased the danger of setting off unexploded bombs. The mission was complete and the US Navy was able to confirm the ship's identity due to the vision recorded. The wreck is protected by the US government and its exact location is kept secret. If you haven't already, then please subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching. A team of scientists recently announced the discovery of the oldest human footprints in North America. These fossilised prints were made between 23,000 and 21,000 years ago, along the shores of an Ice Age lake that once filled the Tularosa Basin in south-central New Mexico in what is now White Sands National Park. This finding changes the timeline on North American human habitation, turning back the clock of human arrival in the Americas nearly 10,000 years. The footprints were formed when ancient peoples walked over damp, sandy ground surrounding the former lake. Over time, sediment filled in the footprints as the ground hardened, fossilising the prints. Recently, erosion has resurfaced the prints, making many of them visible to the naked eye. By testing the sediment, researchers were able to carbon date the prints, with the oldest set being 22,800 years old. If you like history and haven't already, then please subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching. Archaeologists in northern Peru today have unearthed a 3,000-year-old tomb which they believe might have honoured an elite religious leader in the Andean country some 3 millennia ago. The body was buried under 6 layers of ash, mixed with black earth, with decorated ceramic bowls and seals indicating ancient ritual body paint, used for people of elite standing. Dubbed the Priest of Pacopampa, referring to the highland archaeological zone where the tomb was found. The priest would have been buried around 1200 BC. The body was also found with a bone shaped into a tupu, a large pin to hold cloaks and ponchos, which would have been used to hold a woman's blanket. Though this person is a man, the associations are very peculiar. The rock layers indicate the priest was some 5 centuries older than the tombs of the Lady of Pacopampa and the priests of the Serpent Jaguar of Pacopampa, discovered in 2009 and 2015. If you like history and haven't already, then please subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching. Guards of the Tower of London have reported having a terrible crushing sensation upon entering the place where King Henry V's impressible suit armour is exhibited. A guard patrolling the grounds reported a sensation of someone throwing a cloak over him. When he tried to free himself, the cloth was seized from behind and pulled tightly around his throat by his unseen attacker. Although there has been a lot of talk and a pervading belief that the tower is a place of death and torture, only a total of 7 people were executed within the tower, a figure which is low compared to other places. The executions were commonly held on the notorious Tower Hill on the castle grounds. In 400 years, 112 executions took place on the Tower Hill. If you haven't already, then please subscribe to my channel. Give this video a like and comment below what haunted location you would like to see next. Thanks for watching. During Prohibition in the United States, the US government literally poisoned alcohol. When people continued to consume alcohol despite its banning, law officials got frustrated and decided to try a different kind of deterrent: death. They ordered the poisoning of industrial alcohols manufactured in the US, which were products regularly stolen by bootleggers. By the end of Prohibition in 1933, the federal poisoning program is estimated to have killed at least 10,000 people. As Paris grew, it eventually ran into a major problem. By the 17th century, enough people had lived and died in Paris that its cemeteries were overflowing. A prolonged period of spring rain caused a wall around Les Innocents to collapse, spilling rotting corpses into a neighbouring property. The city needed a better place to put its deceased, so it went to the tunnels, moving bones from the cemeteries 5 stories underground into Paris's former quarries. Cemeteries began to be emptied in 1786. It took the city 12 years to move all the bones from bodies numbering between 6 and 7 million into the catacombs. Some of the oldest date back to as far as 1200 years ago. If you're interested in history, then please subscribe to my channel and give this video a like. Thanks for watching. This 15-year-old girl lived in the Inca Empire and was sacrificed 500 years ago as an offering to the gods. She is preserved this well because she was frozen during sleep and kept in a dry, cold condition at more than 6,000 meters above sea level at this time. No other treatment was necessary, but we will note that the international team of researchers used forensic tests to analyze the chemicals found in the children's hair. They discovered that they all consumed alcohol and coca leaves in the final months of their lives. Found in 1999 near the top of a volcano in northwestern Argentina, she was an archaeological revolution for being one of the best preserved mummies, since there was even blood in her body and her internal organs remained. If you're interested in history, then please subscribe to my channel, like this video and check out my other videos. Thanks for watching. Pompeii, 23 kilometers southeast of Naples, was home to about 13,000 people when it was buried under ash, pumice pebbles and dust, as it endured the force of an eruption equivalent to many atomic bombs. Archaeologists studying the Roman city of Pompeii recently discovered an ancient fast food restaurant and is now open to the public. The excavations uncovered a storefront, duck, pig, goat and fish bones, as well as snail shells in between shards of pottery, suggesting that some kind of meat and seafood stew may have been on the menu. Visitors won't be able to try the Roman delicacies that would have been served at the original restaurant, since this is a society that thought honey-roasted rodents raised in jars were a delicacy. Archaeologists also found a decorated bronze drinking bowl known as a patera, ceramic jars used for cooking stews and soups and wine flasks. If you're interested in history and you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. Like this video and comment below what you would like to see in future videos. Thanks for watching. From September to March every year, a thundercloud named Hector forms nearly every afternoon on the Tiwi Islands in Australia. Hector, also known as Hector the Convector, is known as one of the most consistent thunderstorms. It was named by a pilot during World War II and it still remains the centre of many meteorological studies. Though many meteorologists have studied the interesting history of Hector, they have not come up with a valid explanation on why the thunderstorm keeps appearing. If you haven't already, then please subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Thank you for watching. Lady Day was found with all of her organs and blood vessels intact. There was also a small amount of type A blood found in her veins, and she still had hair and eyelashes. Scientists found seeds of melon in her stomach, which led them to believe she died during the melon season in summer. This also meant she died within a couple of hours of eating a melon. What surprised everyone the most was the mysterious liquid that her body was soaked in. It was mildly acidic and had some magnesium in it, and it was probably what helped to preserve her body. To this day, scientists still don't know what kind of liquid it was. If you haven't already, then please subscribe to our channel and like this video. Thank you for watching. The year 1676, Jamestown, the capital of the Virginia colony, was in ruins. In retaliation to express their anger at Government William Berkeley's failure to protect the colonists against Native American attacks, Nathaniel Bacon rallied a group of Virginian rebels and they attacked. A bloody fight ensued. And although Bacon died, this event is considered the first armed rebellion by American colonists against Britain. If you haven't already, then please subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Thank you for watching. As South Vietnam collapsed with the final stages of the Vietnam War in 1975, President Ford ordered the mass evacuation of Vietnamese orphans from Saigon. A massive northern Vietnamese offensive loomed and time was of the essence. In the end, Operation Baby Lift saved more than 3,000 orphans. If you haven't already, then please subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Thank you for watching. These following rare vintage photos of Marilyn Monroe capture the old Hollywood icon in a way you have never seen her before. From 1926, showing her mother holding her before placing her in foster care at 2 weeks old due to paranoid schizophrenia, until 1962 where her life tragically ends. If you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Thank you for watching. If McDonald's still used the original Ronald McDonald shown here, customers would probably lose their appetites before even placing their orders. This advertisement, shown in the Washington DC market in 1963, saw actor Willard Scott portray the now world-famous clown in a way that some would say is much creepier than the version we know today. If you haven't already, then please subscribe to our channel and leave us a like. Thank you for watching. With a typical home value of nearly $2 million, people all over the world would happily live in a Greenwich Village abode. But what if that home was also known as the House of Death? Although the house was built in 1856, strange things didn't begin happening there until 1897. As the years went on, so did the pile of ghostly sightings. These included a piece of wood moving on its own, ghosts seen going up and down the stairs, and visitors claiming to hear marching sounds. If you haven't already, please make sure you subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Full video will be released tomorrow. Thanks for watching. Back in January of 2007, Google publicly announced that they were planning to send a plane over locations in Australia to update Google Maps images. Quite a few people attempted to communicate messages by displaying large text on the ground for the Australian Day flyover, as it was called. But very few actually accomplished it due to a miscommunication over the date of the flight. However, Australia.com managed it by paying a sand sculptor to form the letters of their domain name on Bondi Beach near Sydney. From all the sunken treasures in the world, there is at least one which has been described as the ultimate prize for treasure hunters, the holy grail of shipwrecks and most legendary lost treasures, the Fleur d'Omar. Since her loss in early 1512 and until nowadays, no effort was spared to try to locate her remains and salvage the immersed treasure she was said to be carrying. Speculations, assumptions, theories about her whereabouts has been the never-ending subject of numerous salvage groups, without giving a clue even almost 500 years later. Flor de la Mar was reported to be twice as large as the greatest barracks of that time. Due to its immense size and shape, she was named as the Flower of the Sea. The worth of the treasure has been estimated to be around $3 billion. Even if the wreck is found, there are at least 3 different countries that lay claim to the treasure. Did you know that the search for the Titanic was actually a cover-up? In 1985, Professor Robert Ballard announced his search to look for the Titanic. Ballard had actually been hired by the US Navy to locate 2 lost nuclear submarines, and the Titanic was their cover story. It was one of Ballard's dreams to look for the Titanic, and he came to an agreement with the Navy that if time and funding permitted it, he could also genuinely search for the Titanic. Once they had found the 2 subs, they still had 12 days remaining, and Ballard managed to apply the knowledge he had learnt from finding them to find the wreck of the Titanic. The colony of New South Wales was plagued by a lack of currency during its early years. Governor Lachlan Macquarie attempted to remedy this by importing 40,000 silver Spanish 8 real pieces. By having the centres stamped out of the coins, Macquarie distinguished them as belonging to the colony of New South Wales and prevented them from going straight out again. In doing so, he created the first currency minted in Australian history. Portugal's first serial killer had local police initially believing the deaths were copycat suicides. Alves would throw his victims over the edge, sending them falling to their deaths. Between 1836 and 1839, he repeated this process some 70 times, which led to a temporary closure of the bridge. He ended up gathering together a group of bandits. The group was caught while killing 4 people inside the home of a local doctor, and Alves was arrested and sentenced to death by hanging. Scientists at the time wanted to study Alves' head to determine the origin of his murderous nature. For this reason, they had his head removed from his dead body and preserved in a jar for study, where it has remained ever since. This severed head now sits in the university in Lisbon. New artefacts were found in the UK recently. 800 Ice Age tools, including giant hand axes almost too large to hold, were found in a dig site in Kent in England. The artefacts were preserved in deposits from the Ice Age on a hillside at the edge of the Medway Valley. The tool measures nearly a foot long and weighs over 3.5 pounds. These hand axes are so big it's difficult to imagine how they could have been easily held and used. Perhaps they fulfilled a less practical or more symbolic function than other tools. While right now we aren't sure why such large tools were being made or which species of early humans were making them, but this site offers a chance to answer these exciting questions in the future. Bass Strait in Australia was not always a strait. It used to be a plain populated by Indigenous people who moved back and forth between what we now call Victoria and Tasmania. The first humans arrived in Tasmania around 40,000 years ago. About 30,000 years ago, an ice age began which caused sea levels to drop about 120 metres and created a continuous landmass that stretched between Papua New Guinea and Tasmania. When the ice melted, a process estimated to have taken 6,000 years, Bass Strait formed and became an almost impassable barrier by around 12,000 years ago. Did you know that there was a time when American children were sent through the mail? When the United States Parcel Post Service officially began on January 1, 1913, it allowed customers to ship large packages, including people, provided they weren't heavier than 11 pounds and were stamped appropriately. The Civil War was the bloodiest war in American history. It is often called the first modern war because of efficient and deadly weapons that became available for the first time. About 625,000 men died. This amounted to 2% of the population at the time, which would be the equivalent to about 6 million Americans dying today. More soldiers died in the Civil War than any other American conflict, and 2/3 of them were killed by disease. Diarrhea, typhoid fever, lung inflammation, and childhood diseases like chickenpox were the cause of 67% of the deaths. The date of earliest occupation of the Australian continent is constantly changing. New excavations and improved dating techniques push the date further back into the distant past. Footprints in the sand, artefacts in ancient shelters, and items such as this piece of ochre all provide evidence of the vast human history of the continent. Aboriginal people are known to have occupied mainland Australia for at least 65,000 years. It is widely accepted that this predates the modern human settlement of Europe and the Americas. From an Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander view of creation, people have always been in Australia since the land was created. On mainland Australia, the dreaming is a system of belief held by many first Australians to account for their origins. In the dreaming, all-powerful beings roamed the landscape and laid the moral and physical groundwork for human society. Prior to the dreaming, there was a land before time when the earth was flat. No one can say exactly how old the dreaming is. From an Indigenous perspective, the dreaming has existed from the beginning of time. John Smith was a North American Indian from Minnesota who claimed to live to 137 years old. Long before his death in 1922, the people referred to him as wrinkled meat due to his creased face. However, some say that his facial appearance was caused by disease, not age. Though his real age remains contested, his gravestone in Cass Lake, Minnesota, still lists his birth year as 1784. Even though it looks like something straight out of a vintage cartoon, kangaroo boxing actually became pretty popular in the late 1800s. In both Europe and the United States, clowns and professional boxers alike would square off against these kangaroos in front of frenzied crowds. In the decades that followed, the sport fell out of favour as many decried its abuses of the animals involved. A bronze sword more than 3,000 years old has been unearthed in southern Germany. The weapon barely shows its age. It has remained so well preserved it almost still shines. The weapon was found alongside an assortment of Bronze Age artefacts, as well as 3 individuals, a man, a woman and a child, all of whom were buried around the same time. Researchers don't know how the 3 were connected or whether they were related. The sword and the burial have yet to be examined, so that our archaeologists can classify this find more precisely. Researchers can say, however, that the sword's condition is extraordinary. A find like this is very rare. Rare photos show American stores and shops from the early 20th century. These photographs not only document the architectural appearance of these stores, but also encapsulate the society of the time. One striking aspect of these images is the diversity of the shops themselves. There were a wide array of businesses, including neighbourhood grocery stores, hardware shops, clothing boutiques and corner pharmacies. They were often intimate spaces where shopkeepers knew their customers by name, offering tailored recommendations, trusted advice and a welcoming atmosphere. Marsden Grotto is probably one of the most unique hotels in the world, located in a seaside cave overlooking the beach and sea. The legend says that a pint of ale left out overnight was always empty by the morning. The ghost could be a smuggler named John the Gibber, who was murdered by his band of criminals after turning them into the authorities. A TV presenter drank from the tankard during one of his live Metro radio shows, allegedly sparking off a series of supernatural phenomena that eventually forced the landlord to quit. This included flying ashtrays smashing out against the wall and flooding in the cellar after all the beer taps were turned on. The original tankard was lost during refurbishment. A replacement is on display but is no longer filled up each night for the ghost. The pub was also the venue for a TV investigation in 2001, where paranormal researchers claim to have identified at least 7 different ghosts. Somehow, mapmakers kept drawing California as an island for over 200 years. Some sailors even claim they sailed around it. The 1592 discovery of the strait between modern-day Washington State and Vancouver Island helped. P40 found the Northwest Passage, and some maps showed the island of California going all the way out past Origin. Finally, over a century later, missionaries followed the Colorado River down to its delta and reported back to Europe that California was clearly connected to the mainland. In 1747, the King of Spain issued an official proclamation to that effect, and the island of California, which had never actually existed, was no more. The ancient Maya, whose early settlements date back to about 2000 BC, lived in present-day southern Mexico and northern Central America. As a civilization, they are recognised for their sophisticated calendar systems and hieroglyphic writing, as well as their achievements in areas such as agriculture and architecture. Around AD 250, the Maya entered what's now known as the Classic period, an era in which they built flourishing cities with temples and palaces and population size peaked. However, around AD 900, almost all of the major cities in what was then the heart of Maya civilization, the southern lowlands region, had been abandoned. Potential reasons for the downfall of Maya civilization, including overpopulation, environmental degradation, warfare, shifting trade routes and extended drought, it's likely that a complex combination of factors was behind the collapse. While Wittenoom was wiped from the map in 2007 by the state government, the abandoned tailings contain up to 150,000 tonnes of raw asbestos fibre, almost the entire amount of blue asbestos produced commercially in the area, 165,000 tonnes over the life of the mines. The blue asbestos that was mined here for more than 30 years continued to kill those who worked with it. Widdenoom is not quite a ghost town yet. There are working telephone lines, despite there being no power grid, no official post service, no road maintenance, and signs posted around the old township warning visitors of the deadly risk of airborne asbestos. 3 people remain to live here. Was the Trojan horse successful? The Trojan horse was a legendary tactic used by the Greeks during the Trojan War. The Greeks constructed a large wooden horse and hid soldiers inside. They then presented the horse as a gift to the Trojans, who brought it inside the city walls. At night, the Greek soldiers emerged from the horse and opened the gates, allowing the rest of the Greek army to enter and defeat the Trojans. The Greeks pretended to sail away and the Trojans pulled the horse into their city as a victory trophy. That night, the Greek force crept out of the horse and opened the gates for the rest of the Greek army, which had sailed back under the covers of darkness. The Greeks entered and destroyed the city, ending the war. The cursed grave in Walhalla. Many people have heard of the Walhalla Cemetery's famous cursed grave in Gippsland, Victoria, Australia, which bears an inscription foretelling the doom of all those who stand over the tomb. James Mitchell died in a mining accident in 1880, and his tombstone in Walhalla reads, "Oh, let my sudden doom a warning be to all, even while those bendest over my tomb, thou mayest as quickly fall." Did you know that there is a grave in Timor which bears the very same inscription? Joseph Nichols died in 1874, 6 years before James Mitchell. Nichols died at the Duke and Timor mine, also in a mining accident. He is buried at the Timor Cemetery with the very same curse displayed on his gravestone. The Walhalla Cemetery is strikingly unique and beautiful. Anyone with an interest in historical goldfield cemeteries would enjoy a stroll along the steep hillside among the graves. The entire town is just gorgeous, like a time capsule from a different era.
The condition and placement of the Homo naledi bones overturn long-held assumptions about the behavior of primitive hominids. The bones lack the kinds of gnaw marks by a wild beast that would indicate that they had been dragged into the cave by carnivores. They were also located deep in a shaft, where they were unlikely to have ended up by accident. As such, it became clear that the bones had been deliberately placed in the cave by other Homo naledi individuals. In other words, they were buried. However, its burial practices demonstrated that its individuals understood mortality and the concept of something after death. That squashed the notion, widespread until then, that such notions and behavior required big brains, and forced a re-examination of early hominids' culture and intelligence. The Goiânia Institute of Radiotherapy, a private chemotherapy clinic about half a mile from the administrative center of Goiânia, Brazil, moved offices in 1985. It left behind many outdated hospital machines and supplies that the administrators figured that they would not need in their new location. Among the items left behind was a teletherapy treatment device that used cesium-137, a highly radioactive isotope. Under the terms of the clinic's license, the authorities should have been notified and careful disposal methods should have been followed. The clinic's idiot administrators did not bother with any of that. The institute's former premises became an abandoned building that housed homeless people and morphed into a hangout for drug addicts and derelicts. Unaware of what it was, but figuring that it might have scrap metal value, they removed the source assembly, the part that contained the radioactive isotope, from the machine's radiation head. It was a start of a serious nuclear incident. The scavengers took the teletherapy device in a wheelbarrow back to Alves' home, where they tried to dismantle it. The idiot duo found it extremely difficult to get the thing open. The following day, he experienced diarrhea and dizziness, and his left hand began to swell. He went to a clinic, where his symptoms were diagnosed as the result of something he ate, and he was told to rest at home. In the meantime, Alves persisted with the attempts to open the device, and finally, on September 16, 1987, after 3 days, he managed to puncture it with a screwdriver. Inside, he found a glowing blue substance and scooped some of it out. He thought that it might be gunpowder and tried to light it on fire, but it didn't ignite. He sold the device to the owner of a nearby scrapyard. Fascinated by the glowing blue substance inside the punctured teletherapy device, he figured it might be not just valuable, but supernatural. So he took it to his house. Things were about to take yet another turn for the worse. The scrapyard owner invited family to come and check out the mysterious contents and shared some of the glowing stuff with them. His brother took some of the dust to his home, where he spread it on the concrete floor. His 6-year-old coated her body in it and ate an egg contaminated with it. On September 25, 1987, Ferreira sold the device to a second scrapyard. In the meantime,
His wife, who had become seriously ill, realized that many people around her had also become ill. She began to suspect that the glowing blue stuff might have had something to do with it. On the 28th, she recovered the device from the second scrapyard and took it to a hospital, where the radioactivity was finally detected. About 130,000 panicked locals swarmed hospitals, afraid that they might have been irradiated. 250 people had been contaminated, 20 suffered radiation sickness, and 4 died, including the wife and 6-year-old niece. The 2 original scavengers both lost limbs to amputation.
The discovery of this lost city is the second most important archaeological discovery since the tomb of Tutankhamun. This new find is significant because, unlike the many pharaonic tombs that have been discovered in the past, the city sheds new light on how common residents of ancient Egypt worked and lived nearly 3,400 years ago. Curiously, an oblong oval-faced image with pointy ears closely resembling Yoda's face can be seen in the image above, which is not only remarkable but an interesting find. A fossil from a rare dinosaur that roamed South America 110 million years ago has been returned to Brazil from Germany, ending a diplomatic spat triggered by charges that researchers stole it. The small dino, called Eubarara jubatus, which had an early form of feathers and spear-like rods jutting from its shoulders, fascinated scientists, who identified it as previously unknown species in a paper published in 2020. But it soon sparked a scientific and ethical scandal when Brazilian researchers accused the German team behind the paper of illegally removing the fossil from Brazil. After a nearly 3-year standoff, a delegation led by German Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock returned the fossil Sunday during a visit to Brasilia. Officials said it was believed that the stones came from somewhere in North Wiltshire, a county in southwest England, but they couldn't pin down a precise location. Then, in 2019, researchers had a stroke of luck when a man who had worked on a restoration project at Stonehenge in 1958 provided them a 2.5-inch 108 centimeter long, roughly 1 inch 25 millimeter thick core that had been extracted from one of the Sarsens, which he had taken back to the U.S. Scientists were able to do tests on the sample and create a geochemical fingerprint of the Sarsens. Then, after analyzing similar stones from 20 different sites across southern England and comparing the chemistry, they narrowed down the source to West Woods in Wiltshire, today a popular recreational destination for hikers. But how exactly the builders transported the stones to the site of Stonehenge, 15 miles 24 kilometers to the south, remains a mystery. One item that survived the Titanic in remarkably good shape was a single Spillers and Baker's pilot cracker from a survival kit on one of the ship's lifeboats. Believed to be the world's most expensive cracker, it was snapped up by a collector in Greece for £15,000 2K in 2015. Collective value of recovered jewels, $200 million 143. 6M, one of the largest and most luxurious ships in the world, the Titanic attracted some incredibly affluent passengers, and when the vessel sank, so did swaths of their riches. Recovery operations have produced an abundance of precious treasures that were abandoned as the ship began to collapse, including one particularly valuable trinket. In 1987, just 2 years after the remains of the Titanic were first found, a diamond bracelet engraved with the name Amy was brought to the surface. It's assumed that the accessory belonged to one of 2 women named Amy who had been on board. To add up all the astonishing jewels recovered from the Titanic wreckage, it's rumored they have a combined value of $200 million 143. 6M, violin playing as the Titanic sank, sold for $1.4 million 900K. Distress mounted among passengers and crew as the Titanic plunged deeper and deeper into the icy waters, and so classical musician Wallace Hartley and his band decided to play music to calm those on board. Hartley eventually went down with the ship, wearing a life jacket and with his beloved violin strapped to his body. Incredibly, the instrument was later recovered from the water and returned to his fiancée, Maria Robinson. The iconic instrument became the most expensive piece of Titanic memorabilia ever sold in 2013, when it fetched an astonishing £900,000 1 for M at auction. Bidding lasted just 10 minutes. New scans of the Titanic shipwreck have uncovered fascinating details, including unopened bottles of champagne and pairs of sunken shoes. According to Magellan, the company behind the scan, these stunning new images have also detected a gold necklace with a megalodon tooth. The necklace, Magellan CEO Richard Parkinson raved, is astonishing, beautiful, and breathtaking. The necklace features the tooth of a megalodon, a fearsome prehistoric shark that lived 23 million years ago, making the find all the more spectacular. The company plans to scan footage of passengers boarding the ship in April 1912 in order to document their facial features and clothing. If they're able to identify the passenger with the necklace, they'll next attempt to contact any of their living relatives. However, will remain at the bottom of the sea with the shipwreck, as the US-UK agreement prohibits the removal of Titanic artifacts by the public. The legend of Amelia Earhart's disappearance. The mystery of Amelia Earhart's disappearance somewhere over the Pacific Ocean in July 1937 during her around-the-world flight attempt persists to the present day, and is especially alive and well on the internet. Nevertheless, the idea that people are still fascinated by Earhart's disappearance after 73 years, whether it is tied up in conspiratorial theories or not, is worthy of note. The government put forth an extraordinary attempt to find Earhart that went on for 16 days, involved 9 vessels, 4,000 crewmen, and 66 aircraft at a cost of more than $4 million. All of this was to no avail. Unless you've never been near a drugstore paperback rack and don't surf cable channels late at night, you've undoubtedly heard of the Bermuda Triangle, aka the Devil's Triangle. It's an area of water between Florida, Puerto Rico, and Bermuda that, according to pop mythology, contains some sort of malevolent force that causes ships, planes, and people to disappear, never to be seen again. Some have put the blame on extraterrestrial invaders capturing humans for study, on interdimensional vortices, and even on oceanic flatulence methane gas erupting from ocean sediments. The U.S. Coast Guard's website notes that the service does not recognize the existence of the so-called Bermuda Triangle as a geographic area of specific hazard to ships or planes, and says that after reviewing accidents there, nothing has been found that couldn't be explained.
1, 2, 3, come on.